Imagine you own a $350,000 home in Durango, Colorado. You support public school students by paying $166 per year in property taxes. Now imagine you move the exact same house to Pueblo. Here, your contribution rockets up to $680 for the same $350,000 house. If you moved it to Boulder, you'd pay $630. If you move it to Salida, you'd pay $370, about half as much as in Pueblo. Move it to Steamboat, and your contribution drops to $252. Or you could try the tiny town of Primero, just west of Trinidad, where you'd pay only $43. In all of these communities, the state looks at what is raised with local tax revenue and then backfills the difference to ensure every student receives the same base per pupil funding. Across Colorado, when it comes to investment in education through taxes, some property owners pay 16 times the property tax rate of other property owners for no good policy reason. What explains this property taxpayer inequality in school district funding? To answer that question, we need a quick look at how we got here. The story begins in 1988 when Coloradans decided that kids across the state should receive the same base funding per student so they'd get an equal education no matter where they lived. So the School Finance Act equalized per pupil funding in schools across Colorado. Similarly, we asked each homeowner to pay the same rate into the fund. We set up a uniform school district mill of 40 mills in most districts. Think of a mill as the property tax rate. In districts that had lower property wealth, where 40 mills did not bring in enough revenue to fund schools with local dollars, the state paid the difference. Then TABOR came along in 1992. It set a cap on how much revenue can be collected by each school district each year. That cap was restricted to inflation and growth in student enrollment. If schools collected more revenue than the cap allowed, often because of jumps in assessed value of property due to oil and gas booms or growing residential communities, the local mills were reduced the following year. Imagine a school district that suddenly got a big new business in town paying new property taxes, causing the mills to be lowered the following year. But the next year, that business picks up and leaves. Suddenly, there are less tax collections on the remaining property. Because TABOR does not allow tax rates to increase without voter approval, mills could not float back up to where they were, requiring more and more state backfill. As this hammer pounded down mill rates randomly around the state, legislators had to make up the difference in more and more communities. Local property tax rates fell and fell and fell. This happened in a lot of school districts across the state throughout the 1990s and early 2000s. Since 1994, the average mill rate has been cut in half, from 38.1 to 19.7. This is a cut that no one authorized and no one asked for. It was an unintended consequence of TABOR working on autopilot. The result? The state pays more and more for schools as property taxes have declined. This puts a crunch on health, transportation, and other important public services, and it has created a slanted foundation for shared school funding as residents in our lower property wealth communities pay disproportionately more into the system than folks in wealthy areas, urban or rural. This video was brought to you by the Colorado Fiscal Institute and the Colorado Children's Campaign.